Welcome back to Diary of a Killer Cat by Anne Fine. At this point in the story, the cat has dragged in Thumper, and the family are now deciding what to do with Thumper. Chapter 5, Friday. I call it Friday because they left it so late. The clock was already well past midnight by the time Ellie's father finally heaved himself out of his comfy chair in the front of the telly and went upstairs. When he came down again, he was dressed in black from head to foot. "You look like a cat burglar," said Ellie's mother. "I wish someone would burgle our cat," he muttered. I just ignored him. I thought that was best. Together they went to the back door. "Don't switch the outside light on," he warned her. "You never know who might be watching." I tried to sneak out at the same time, but Ellie's mother held me back with her foot. "You can just stay inside for tonight," she told me. "We've had enough trouble from you this week." Fair's fair. I'd heard all about it anyway, later from Bella and Tiger and Puskins. They all reported back. They're good mates. They all saw Ellie's father creeping across the lawn with his plastic bag full of Thumper, wrapped nicely in a towel to keep him clean. They all saw him forcing his way through the hole in the hedge and crawling across next door's lawn on his tummy. "Couldn't think what he was doing," Puskins said afterwards. "Ruined the hole in the hedge," complained Bella. "He's made it so big that the Thompsons' Rottweiler could get through that now." "That father of Ellie's must have the most dreadful night vision," said Tiger. "It took him forever to find the hutch in the dark." Anne prized the door open. Anne stuffed in poor old Thumper. I set him out neatly on his bed of straw, all curled up, with the straw patted up round him. It looked like he was sleeping. "It was very, very lifelike," said Bella. "It could have fooled me. If anyone had just happened to be passing in the dark, they'd really have thought that poor old Thumper had just died happily and peacefully in his sleep after a good life from old age." They all began howling with laughter. "Shh," I said. "Keep it down, guys. They'll hear, and I'm not supposed to be out tonight. I'm grounded." They all stared at me. "Get away with you. Grounded? What for?" "Murder," I said, "for cold-blooded Bunnyside." That set us all off again. We yowled and yowled. The last I heard before we took off in a gang up Beechcroft Drive was one of the bedroom's windows being flung open and Ellie's father yelling, "How did you get out, you crafty beast?" So what's he going to do? Nail up the cat flap? Chapter 6, Still Friday. He nailed up the cat flap. Would you believe this man? He comes down the stairs this morning, and before he's even out of his pyjamas, he sets to work with a hammer and nail. Bang, 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 bang. I give him the stare. I really am. And then he turns round and speaks to me directly. "There," he says, "that'll fix you. Now it swings this way." He gives the cat flap a hefty shove with his foot. "But it doesn't swing this way." And sure enough, when the cat flap tried to flap back in, it couldn't. It hit the nail. "So," he says to me, "you can go out. Feel free to go out. Feel free, in fact, not only to go out, but also to stay out, get lost, or disappear forever. But should you bother to come back again, don't go through the trouble of bringing anything with you, because this is now a one-way flap, and you will have to sit on the doormat until one of the family lets you in." He narrows his eyes at me, all nasty-like. "And woe betide you, Tuffy, if there's anything dead lying waiting on the doormat beside you." Woe betide you? What a stupid expression. What on earth does it mean anyway, woe betide you? Woe betide him. Chapter 7, Saturday. I hate Saturday morning. It's so unsettling, all that fussing and door banging and "have you got the purse?" and "where's the shopping list?" and "do we need cat food?" Of course we need cat food. What else am I supposed to eat all week? Air? They were all pretty quiet today, though. Ellie was sitting at the table, carving Thumper a rather nice gravestone out of a half-left-over cork floor tile. It said, "Thumper, rest in peace." You mustn't take it round next door yet," her father warned her. "Not till they've told us Thumper's dead at any rate." Some people are born soft. Her eyes brimmed with tears. "There goes next door now," Ellie's mother said, looking out of the window. "Which way is she headed?" "Towards the shops." "Good. If we keep well behind, we can get Tuffy to the vet's without bumping into her." "Tuffy? Vets?" Ellie was even more horrified than I was. She threw herself at her father, beating with her soft little fist. "Dad, no, you can't!" I put up a far better fight with my claws. When he finally prized me out of the dark of the cupboard under the sink, his willy was ruined and his hands were scratched and bleeding all over. He wasn't very pleased about it. "Come out there, you great fat furry psychopath. It's only a flu jab you booked in for, more's the pity." Would you have believed him? I was absolutely sure. Neither was Ellie, I wasn't absolutely sure. Neither was Ellie, so she tagged along. I was still quite suspicious when we reached the vet's. That is the only reason why I spat at the girl behind the desk. There was no reason on earth to write "handle with care" on the top of my case notes. Even the Thompson's Rottweiler doesn't have "handle with care" written on the top of his case notes. What's wrong with me? So I was a little rude in the waiting room. So what? I hate waiting. And I especially hate waiting stuffed in that wire cage. It's cramped, it's hot, and it's boring. And after a few hundred minutes of sitting there quietly, anyone would start teasing their neighbours. I didn't mean to frighten that little sick baby gerbil half to death. I was only looking at it. It's a free country, isn't it? Can't a cat even look at a sweet little baby gerbil? And if I was licking my lips, which I wasn't, that's only because I was thirsty. Honestly, I wasn't trying to pretend I was going to eat it. The trouble with baby gerbils is they can't take a joke, and neither can anyone else round here. Ellie's father looked up from the pamphlet he was reading called Your Pet and Worms. Oh, nice, very nice. "Turn the cage around the other way, Ellie," he said. Ellie turned my cage around the other way. Now I was looking at the Fisher's Terrier, and if there's any animal in the world who ought to have "handle with care" written on the top of its case notes, it's the Fisher's Terrier. Okay, so I hissed at him. It was only a little hiss. You practically have to have bionic ears to hear it. And I did growl a bit, but you'd think he'd have a head start on growling. He is a dog after all. I'm only a cat. And yes, okay, I spat a bit, but only a bit. Nothing you'd even notice unless you were waiting to pick on someone. Well, how was I to know he wasn't feeling very well? Not everyone waiting in for the vet is ill. I wasn't ill, was I? Actually, I've never been ill in my life. I don't even know what it feels like. But I reckon even if I were dying, something furry locked in a cage could make an incy-wincy noise at me without me ending up whimpering and cowering and scrabbling to get under the seat to hide behind the knees of my owner. More a chicken than a Scotch terrier, if you want my opinion. "Could you please keep that vile cat of yours under control?" Mrs. Fisher said nastily. Ellie stuck up for me. "He is in a cage." "He's still scaring half the animals in here to death. Can't you cover him up or something?" Ellie was going to keep arguing, I could tell, but without even looking up from his worm pamphlet, her dad just dropped his raincoat over my cage as if I was some mangy old parrot or something, and everything went black. No wonder by the time the vet came at me with her nasty long needle, I was in a bit of a mood. I didn't mean to scratch her that badly, though. Or smash all those little glass bottles. Or tip the expensive. Or spill all that cleaning fluid. It wasn't me who ripped my record card into tiny pieces, though. That was the vet. When we left, Ellie was in tears again. She hugged my cage tightly to her chest. "Oh, Tuffy, until we find a new vet who'll promise to look after you, you must be so careful not to get run over." "Fat chance," her father muttered. I was just glowering at him through the cage wire when he spotted Ellie's mother standing knee-deep in shopping bags outside the supermarket. "You're very late," she scolded. Was there a bit of trouble at the vet's?" Ellie burst into tears. I mean, talk about a wimp. But her father is made of sterner stuff. He'd just taken the most huge breath, ready to snitch on me, when suddenly he let it out again. Out of the corner of his eye, he'd spotted trouble of another sort. "Quick," he whispered. "Next door is just coming through the checkout." He picked up half the shopping bags, Ellie's mother picked up the rest, and before we could get away, next door had come through the glass doors. So now all four of them were forced to chat. "Morning," said Ellie's father. "Morning," said next door. "Nice day," said Ellie's father. "Lovely," agreed next door. "Nicer than yesterday," said Ellie's mother. "Oh yes," next door said. "Yesterday was horrible." She probably just meant the weather, for heaven's sake, but Ellie's eyes filled with tears. I don't know why she was so fond of Thumper. I'm the one who's supposed to be her pet, not him. And because she couldn't see where she was going properly anymore, she bumped into her mother, and half the tins of cat food fell out on one of the shopping bags and rolled off down the street. Ellie dumped down my cage and dashed off after them. Then she made the mistake of reading the labels. "Oh no," she wailed, "rabbit chunks!" Really, that child is such a drip. She'd never make it in our gang. She wouldn't last a week. "Talking about rabbit," said next door, "the most extraordinary thing happened at our house." "Really?" said Ellie's father, glaring at me. "Oh yes," said Ellie's mother, glaring at me as well. "Yes," said next door. "On Monday, poor Thumper looked a little bit poorly, so we brought him inside. And on Tuesday, he was worse. And on Wednesday, he died. He was terribly old and had had a happy life, so we didn't feel too bad about it. In fact, we had a little funeral and buried him in a box at the bottom of the garden." I'm staring up at the clouds now. "And on Thursday, he'd gone." "Gone? Gone?" "Yes, gone. And all there was left of him was a hole in the ground and an empty box." "Really?" Good heavens. Ellie's father was giving me the most suspicious look. "And then yesterday," next door went on, "something even more extraordinary happened. Thumper was back again, all fluffed up nicely, and back in his hutch." "Back in his hutch, you say?" "Fluffed up nicely. How strange." You have to hand it to them. They're good actors. They kept it up all the way home. What an amazing story. How on earth could it have happened? Quite astonishing. So strange. Till we were safely through the front door, and then, of course, the pair of them turned on me. "Deceitful creature, making us think you killed him. Just pretending all along. I knew that cat could never have done it. That rabbit was even fatter than he is." You'd have thought they all wanted me to have murdered old Thumper. All except Ellie. She was sweet. "Don't you dare pick on Tuffy," she told them. "You leave him alone. I bet it didn't even dig poor Thumper up. I bet it was Fisher's nasty, vicious terrier who did that. All Tuffy did was bring Thumper back to us so we could make sure he was buried again properly. He's a hero, a kind and thoughtful hero." She gave me a big, soft squeeze. "Isn't that right, Tuffy?" I'm saying nothing, am I? I'm a cat, so I just watched while they all... So I sat and watched while they unnailed the cat flap.